Our club bylaws call out an annual meeting that must be held the first Thursday in December. That's today. And one of the things we do, in addition to swearing in the officers and directors for the coming year, is that we try to use this as an educational opportunity to inform the club about what's going on. And we picked 3 topics today to talk about. We have 3 speakers. They're each going to have about 5 minutes and we'll give you a shot at some questions. So we're going to start with Randy Roedell, who's going to talk to us about the Lacey Rotary Foundation. Give a round of applause.
Hey, Randy.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to share with you guys about the Lacey Rotary Foundation. The chair of our board is Heather. And Heather had a very good excuse for not being the person to do the presentation today. And Ken, you might want to look into that reason when you're doing fellowship. So I volunteered to do the presentation as long as I got input from other people on our board as far as what I should talk about and cover. And I got some great help from several people on our board. But when it comes to the question and answer portion, I'll probably also defer to members of our board who are here, depending on what the questions are that you have. I was visiting with John Masterson recently, and I was talking with him and just asking him why is he involved in Rotary. And one of the reasons that he gave really struck a chord with me. He says he believes that one of the roles of Rotary is to help shape future citizens of the world. And as I think about the Lacey Rotary Foundation, we really get to serve a role in doing that. I think 2 or 3 years ago, before I joined the board, if you'd asked me what the Lacey Rotary Foundation was about, I'd say we're the group that does the scholarships. And that's kind of true, but it's not really true. The Rotary Club is who does the scholarships. And actually the Rotary Club started doing scholarships back in 1969, before I was even born. And I think that's super cool. But in 1985, the Rotary Club said, hey, let's form a foundation that's organized as a charitable organization. And the role of the foundation will be to receive, to manage, and to disperse funds in support of the Lacey Rotary Club's major projects. And so in 1985, several of our members incorporated the Lacey Rotary Foundation, and we had a number of board members, and they began the process of building the foundation. 4 years after that, in 1989, the board at the time of the foundation set a goal of developing $100,000 in endowed money to use for scholarships, and also established the Creighton Hayes Fellowship. Creighton Hayes was a longtime member of our club and a passionate advocate of education. And so in honor of him, we created the Creighton Hayes Fellowship. And to be a Creighton Hayes Fellow, you contribute $1,000 to the Lacey Rotary Club Scholarship Foundation. And we have a number of Creighton Hayes Fellows, as well as people who are continuing to work towards that as they contribute. The history of the foundation continued in 2000. We had several major, or a couple major outside donations that really boosted the assets that the foundation was able to work with. In 2011, we contributed $46,000 from the foundation to the Lacey Boys and Girls Club to help with the sprinkler project and the wall project that some of you might remember from there. In 2014, we accepted a gift of property from the George Carl estate. George Carl was a longtime member of our club as well. And this past year, we wrapped up the sale of that property, which resulted in about $400,000 added to the foundation. So at this point, the foundation has $1.6 million that we work with. And each year we work with the club to provide scholarships. And the scholarships that we provide, we take the 3-year average of the amount that's in the fund, and we use 5% of that to come up with the amount that we're going to use for scholarships each year. So this year, we're looking at about $60,000 in scholarship for the coming year. So I'm a dad, I've got 3 kids. Mariah, my oldest, is 18, so we're just entering those college years. And part of why I think that this is so important, Mariah is not part of the North Thurston School District, which is the requirement for applying for our scholarship. But she got a scholarship from another organization, and because of that, she's attending college this year. And that's what the Lacey Rotary Foundation does, is it helps shape future citizens of the world. And I'm very proud to be a part of that. How do you give? So there are a couple of ways that you can give. Chris Heck, are you here, Chris? Chris is a member of our board, and he's agreed to take your donations today. If you want to write a check to the Lacey Rotary Foundation, you can do that. Also, we've got a bunch of our board members are here. Can all of the board members just stand up real quick? At any meeting, you can give a check to any member of the board made out to the Lacey Rotary Foundation, and we'll make sure that it gets credited to you and contributed to the foundation. The third way, we've got a P.O. box. You can use the old U.S. Postal Service to write a check. And on everybody's table, there's 7 or 8 copies of this, so there should be enough for just about everybody. On the back, frequently asked questions, has our post office box there so that you can find it that way as well. One of the things that we're working on is trying to figure out more effective ways to make it easier for people to give who want to. George Carl set a great example for us by including the foundation in his estate planning. If you're interested in doing something like that, please talk with any member of the board and we'll work with you to help facilitate that process as well. If you're curious as to where you're at towards Creighton Hayes, Greg Cuoio has a list today, and you can talk with him about that, and he can give you an update on where you're at on the Creighton Hayes. I think that that's not the whole story of the foundation, but all I have for today. But would love to take any questions that anyone has. Either a wonderful presentation or a horrible presentation.
Yay.
Good job, Randy.
Very good.
Way to go, Randy.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you to the Lacey Rotary Foundation board members. They do a lot of work and a lot of good work. This is probably one, we do several things really well, lots of things really well. But when we can give out $60,000, 9 students, some of them 4-year scholarships that end up being $16,000, $20,000, and help that many students, we've done it now for year after year after year. That is really special. I don't know, frankly, I don't know of any other not-for-profit organization in Thurston County, and maybe somebody could correct me, that donates more annually to scholarships than we do. And it's not just through this, we also do some through the outreach program also. So we do good work, and by the way, there are, I think, somewhere around 57 of our members who are Creighton Hayes Fellows, which means they've given $1,000, just like a Paul Harris Fellow, at least $1,000, and we have several that are multiples of $1,000. So having $1.65 million available for scholarships every year from here on and growing is just an absolutely super thing we do for the community. So anybody asks, which we do, it's not just the duck dash, this is a really good one. So congratulations to everybody on that. And our second presentation today is going to be Kathy from Outreach Services. And by the way, we do the duck dash. We generate $60,000 or thereabouts every year, and she's going to tell you where we put and direct a lot of that money. So Kathy, come on up.
Thank you. And there are a couple of handouts on the table. If there may not be quite enough to go around, if anyone really wants one and you don't get one, you want to keep it, let me know and I'll see that you get one. The first one I'm going to talk about is the one that's kind of the chart. Title is Outreach Services. Outreach services are done in several different ways. We give grants or make contributions to nonprofit organizations throughout the community. We do hands-on projects, and on this chart, the parts of the outreach services where we are giving money are represented by little rubber ducks, because that's where the money comes from. You'll see some that are a hand. Those are the hands-on projects. And we have youth programs. We have Interact, the Youth Exchange Program, and then we have some community awards. The Seedale Farrier Award for vocational service and the Ron Rowe Community Improvement Awards. So those are the different ways you can give money, hands-on, support youth programs, and then community awards. We organize the outreach services in different areas: community service, international service, vocational service, and new generations, which is all of our youth programs. And so there's just a brief description. I'm not going to take our time to go through and explain all those, but there's a brief description on this chart about what each of those programs are. What I'm really going to focus on are the grants or the contributions that we've made both last year and this year to date. First of all, you need to understand that our giving is project specific. So it's not just for the ongoing operations of a specific organization, but for a particular thing that they are doing or maybe equipment that they need. So it's project specific. Some of the giving is actually budgeted by the board. It's included as a part of our budget for the year. Things like the Dick Nichols scholarships, that's budgeted a certain amount that we give to that. The Cool Jazz Festival, we budget a certain amount for instruments, a certain amount for water projects. So there are some other projects like that that are already budgeted by the board. But then there's the bulk of it that the decisions are made by club members. So we have 4 different committees that make the decisions on the distribution of these funds. One of them is the Educational Needs and Literacy Committee. And Courtney Shreve chairs that. And Courtney, would you stand, please? And would all the other members of the Education Committee please stand so you may be recognized. Okay, so thank you. You may be seated. So if you know of a need that would fit within the category of education or literacy, a need that you think we should be addressing, let one of the committee members know. Let Courtney know, any of the committee members, or you can let me know and I'll pass the information on. Also, if anyone is interested in joining that committee, Courtney would love to welcome you. Just let her know, or let me know. We then have community services, and Sherwin Kotler chairs that. Sherwin, would you stand, please, and would all the other members of that committee who are here today please stand? Thank you. So they deal with all of the other local community requests or identified needs that don't fall within the education and literacy category. And again, if you know of needs that we should be addressing, please let the committee know or let me know and I'll pass the information on. Or if you're interested in joining that committee, let Sherwin know. We have a discretionary giving committee for small organizations or projects that don't quite fall within the category of any of the other ones. Maybe it's a group that's just kind of getting started. And Phil Comstock chairs that. And I don't know, I haven't seen Phil. Oh, Phil is here. Great. Phil, thank you. And anyone else who's here from that committee, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. So again, I'll give you an example of that. Last summer, it was suggested that we do something to support the needs for the wildlife fire fighting that was going on in our state. And so that committee made a contribution for that purpose. It actually went outside our community, so it didn't quite fit within, it was outside Thurston County. Most of the other things we do fall within Thurston County. So that was a need, as an example of something that fell within that committee. Then we do give beyond our borders, particularly way beyond our borders, through the International Services Committee, and Dustin Wilson chairs that committee. And Dustin, if you would stand and be recognized, and anyone else who is here from the International Services Committee, please stand. Thank you. And again, if you are, now with the International Services, most of the things that we do are programs or organizations that a club member has some kind of a connection with. Because the committee takes great care to be sure that there is that connection, and that the money, we get the money to the right people in the right way, and all that kind of thing. So those are the four groups that distribute funds. Before we leave this, I want to also recognize Cheryl Apty, who is handling the youth services, and let's see, Ken Parsons and Tasha. If you're here, please stand. The three of you, Cheryl and Tasha, and I don't know, Ken is here. Tasha and Ken do the Interact program. Thank you. So the next thing I want to draw your attention to is the other handout that has ducks on it that is on your table. And this is, where do the Lacey Rotary ducks go after they fall from the bridge? Now there's one thing on here that does not go through the Outreach Services Committee, and that is the line from the bottom on the right-hand side, the Rotary Foundation. These are the matching funds that Jim Burton's committee uses to promote giving to the Rotary Foundation. But those matching funds do come from the Duck Dash. So these are all the places where we have given money, either last year, which was, remember our fiscal year starts for July 1st through June of 2015, and then anything we have given so far in this year. And on the back of this, if you flip it over, on the back there is a list of the specific grants that have been made and the amounts. And this is what's gone through the committee, so it does not include the youth exchange, which was $4,415 that we spent of Duck Dash money, and $1,500 in vocational scholarships. So if you have any questions, I know some people had some questions about what some of these things are on the back of this. I will entertain those, and the committee chairs are here to answer your questions. Are there any questions? Betsy?
Because I just haven't been back that long, what is Starfish 1 by 1?
Okay.
Starfish 1 by 1 is a program in Guatemala that is essentially funding young women, middle school up through college to get them an education. Guatemala has the second highest literacy rate in the southern hemisphere, so we have a project down there that we're supporting.
Thank you. Sherwin, did I see your hand?
Yes, I have a question. The discretionary committee money, does that have to be a 501(c), or does that fall outside of that category?
I think there might have been one time when there was some group that was still in the formation process.
But generally, it is a
Yeah.
nonprofit.
Mhm. Any other questions for the committee chairs? Okay, I also want to acknowledge Karen Eitram's work with the vocational part of the outreach services program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Yep, okay. Okay, where'd they go?
Hey, Greg,
Yes, sir.
can you make sure that our AG and our district governor get the materials from today? It's really impressive. I don't see other clubs with this kind of stuff going on, and the materials are so well presented. It's a good idea. You got reason to brag.
Okay, thank you. I can do that. I can do that. They give it to me. Dustin, you want to work your way up? Our third presenter is going to be Dustin Wilson. Please, come on up. Yeah, come on up.
I got a nap.
What?
Okay, I'm acting all right? It's sure good that I live so close to the lake that I can carry this. You know, I've seen things in Africa where people carry their buckets of water on their heads, but I live close to the lake, and I can just dump our drinking water for me and my family right out of the lake into this bucket, and I can bring it to my house. It's just like 40 yards away, and we can have all the water we want. And oh, those poor people in the rest of Africa who've got to carry it for miles on their heads. How sad. How sad. How do I change channels?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out here. Okay, come on, tell me now.
I'm just going to go to slideshow.
Okay, it's got a lot of visuals on this one. I can keep acting if you need to.
Who knows how to go from here to the...
Heather.
Thank you.
I did. Oh, that's right. Never mind. Got it. That was easy.
That's one thing I know how to do.
All right, down. I got it. All right. All issues with water are regional and local, okay? And this slide basically says that throughout the world there's problems, but if you see on the bottom there, our little town of Lacey makes its little mark in water scarcity to some degree. We have even odd watering days on for lawns, okay? That has to do with water use. And everyone in the world has issues like that. I love that quote that says, unfortunately, many have lived without love, but none have lived without water. Okay, this is Remba. This is where I just got that bucket of water. Not really, but that's what I was illustrating. It's an island, and this is what we're talking about. This is the type of things that happen. There's a much more endowed, coordinated person, and she's actually squatting, I believe, to pick up the other bucket there. Try that in your gym sometime. Okay, I'm going to start with the financial stats and get away from them. I'm here to talk about the global grant to Remba Island. I'm honored to have John Dracup with me from San Francisco. We just met today to talk about Remba Island and the phase that the Lacey Rotary Club is the international sponsor of. And we were working on the engineering for the construction designs and things. But this is what it is. The grant that the Lacey Club is the international sponsor of is an $82,000 grant. And those 4 items underneath there are the budget items, the water system, sanitation, training, and inventory. And then down below in the finer print is our actual Lacey Global Grant account. It started with the same amount, and we've dispersed $21,000 of it. And we have that $61,000 remaining. Details you can talk to me about. Okay, this is our marvelous world. That's water scarcity, the map. But I'm just pointing that Kenya is on the eastern side of Africa, there on the Indian Ocean. And this is Lake Victoria. The arrow pointing there to a little white speck, I think you can see it if you've got big eyes, is Fangano Island, all right? That's Fangano Island. The Rotary Club that's the host of our global grant is Beta Fangano Rotary Club in Kenya. Okay, so this is the island. But what you can't see there is, now we're going to jump our eyes. There's Fangano Island. It starts with an M, and the M is silent. And that's where the Rotary Club meets in Lake Victoria. But if you follow that Uganda border down, you see my little arrow there, that tiny little speck is Remba Island. Right? It's not very much of an island. It is an area of 90 acres. Okay, our RAC here in our community is about 100 acres. And I think you could imagine what it would be as if every day and night there were 4,000 people at our RAC trying to get their water and get their sanitation. Just imagine the honey buckets coming and going daily. And you can guess what's happening here on this one. Anyway, that's the community, and that's kind of the picture that I would love to have in everyone's mind. That's what I carry around with me as I think about this community. Now, John Dracup was in charge of Phase 1. And Phase 1 did 2 miracles, okay? This is the project. They take the lake intake here to your right. Water goes in up to a filtration plant, and then into some clean water tanks. It's filtered, of course. It goes to Kiosk 1, and a kiosk is simply a place where people go and get their water. They actually pay for it. And then the pipes take it to Kiosk 2. When that went in there, one of the first things that happened was people for a nickel were able to get clean water for the first time. They could buy a bottle of clean water for about 80 or I forget how many times the amount, but they could buy this water for very inexpensive, okay? So that is one of the things that they did. The other thing that Phase 1 accomplished was it brought a full-time medical clinic. The Kenyan government said that they would supply a full-time medical staff on the island if water was brought there. And the Rotary Clubs, Olympia was the sponsor of that, along with our Water Projects Committee. But this phase accomplished that, and there's now full-time medical staff on the island. So those are 2 marvelous things. People get clean water and they get medical care. That's wonderful. Okay, there are also some latrines that were not quite finished. So Phase 2, with our $82,000, I'm sorry, this is a kiosk, gives you a picture of it. There's the attendant, and there's our water flowing. Clean water, isn't that great? There it is again, the people lining up for clean water, and their buckets, imagine. Phase 2 is in the red. All right, Phase 2 has many parts. I'm just really concentrating on the water here. It brings the water down to the south tip of the island, which is to Kiosk 3, and it's going to bring the water main up to the northern end of the island, which will be Kiosk 4. It also brings a water point into the public school, so the children will have water. It will finish those 10 latrines, and there's a whole other sanitation component on that, but I would not, I work on this forever, I could talk about it forever, but. Okay, this is at kiosk number 1, I believe, I think it is 1 or 2 anyway. And these are Rotarians because, it didn't show up there. Anyway, on November 20th, just a few days ago, that was when the launch of Phase 2 happened. And these are Rotarians from the Fengano Beta Rotary Club, along with some other people I'm going to mention, possibly the Kenyan Minister of Health, possibly other officials. But this was the letter that came from a member of that team. And if you look on there, you can tell they're Rotarians, because they're not just giving you the peace sign, they're saying, this close. Anyway, this is from one of my counterparts in Kenya. Today, I'm happy to let you know that we had a very successful launch of Phase 2 of Remba Island Wash Project. The Rotary Club of Beta Fengano took the lead. In attendance were representatives from the Ministry of Health, ministers of the Beach Management Unit, that might be like a county, and the Wash Committee, those are our workers on the ground to help us train. We were privileged to have the Associate Governor of RC responsible for the Beta Fengano Island Rotary Club and the Foundational Regional Coordinator. Both were representing the country and the district office. We also had Rotarians from Beta Fengano. I would say with confidence that the Fengano Club is very much suited for the work. We are proud of your efforts and the entire Rotary Club of Lacey. Anyway, thank you so much for your encouragement to me as I get to put in some time on this, and we hope that we make a big difference with a lot of effort from here in the lives of these people. Thank you.
Any questions?
Why do people live on this island? What's their economy? What draws them to the island?
It's fishing. There's
a fishing village?
Nile perch. It's a commercial fishing.
Got it. Thanks.
They probably can't afford to go.
Lake Victoria itself, is it very, very polluted or what?
Okay, John could answer this. My understanding is it's very polluted around this particular island. I have friends that have lived in other coast areas, and they say you don't even touch the water. I was invited on a sailing trip when I hope to visit in the spring, and I thought, oh no, do I touch the water? John says it's probably clean if you get deeper. I don't know the answer.
And people lie about 300 around the island due to the open defecation and runoff.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the timeline? When do you think phase 2 will be complete, or what are you hoping for?
Phase 2 will take there are the aspects of it, but the actual construction aspects I would think would be done within a year, 2 at the most, and then there's a whole training component and a measurement and evaluation component that will involve me and the water projects group for probably 3 to 5 years. Yes.
How many gallons are taken from the lake to the filtration system every day?
John, you could
It pumps up to a 10,000 liter tank, and then there's storage, and then through filters, and then to 3 10,000 liter clean water tanks.
So I think the maximum capacity, if I recall what you said, was like 30,000 liters a day. Is like the capacity of the system, or it's something like that.
3.8 liters per gallon.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dustin really deserves this big round of applause because he's been spending a tremendous amount of time on this. Not only working with Roedell International and Grant and our neighboring clubs, but also with the folks over in Kenya that I've seen a lot of the emails come back and forth. There's a lot of interpretation, translation issues that occur. So, Dustin, we know you're spending a lot of time at it. Thank you very much. This is not only providing water, but it's I think, going to make a big difference in the lives of these people in terms of health, because that's nasty out there in that water. They have not had restrooms of any sort for years. I mean, we're talking decades, and it's pretty nasty over there. So we're making another difference here, not only in locally, as you heard before, but also internationally. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, we applied for a grant, we being the region here, from RI. When you give your money to Jim for sustaining purposes, or to Paul Harris, that money goes back to the International. We apply for a grant, we're getting $85,000 from them and matching it with $15,000 locally. So it comes back to us when you give.